that had been watching Earth for 100 years. Their first observation station was built on the dark side of Earth's moon. It was small, hidden deep inside a crater where no human telescope could see it. From there, they watched everything. They recorded every broadcast, every satellite signal, every radio wave that left the blue planet. Commander remembered the day he first saw humans. He was young then, just a junior officer assigned to the observation team. The images had confused him. These creatures were so strange. They had soft skin that broke easily. They needed to sleep for 8 hours every day. They could not survive in cold or heat. They spent most of their time doing things that seemed pointless, watching colored screens, putting food in their mouths, making strange noises with their faces. They call it laughing, his teacher had explained. It serves no military purpose. Now was old. His skin had grown pale with age, but he had risen through the ranks to become supreme commander of the invasion force. 100 years of preparation had led to this moment. He stood in the great hall of addressing the High Council. Behind him, massive screens showed images of Earth, beaches where humans lay doing nothing, cities where they walked slowly, looking at small devices in their hands, buildings where they sat in chairs for hours, staring at glowing rectangles. "We have studied them completely," said. His voice was calm and confident. "We know their biology, we know their technology, we know their weaknesses." The council members nodded. They were the oldest and of the people. They had approved this mission 50 years ago, and they had waited patiently for the preparations to finish. "Their bodies are fragile," continued. "A fall from small height can break their bones. They cannot breathe underwater. They die from temperature changes that would not bother our children. They are, in every way, inferior." On the screen behind him, footage played of humans in their daily lives. A woman walking a small animal on a rope, children running and falling down, then crying. Old humans moving slowly, their bodies bent and weak. "They have weapons," admitted. "But their weapons are primitive, chemical explosions, simple projectiles. They have nuclear devices, yes, but they are afraid to use them. They have not used them in war for over 80 years. They have become soft." Elder, the oldest member of the council, raised one thin hand. "What of their military forces?" Smiled. "Their armies are small. Most humans have never held a weapon. They pay a few of their kind to be soldiers while the rest continue their comfortable lives. They are not a warrior race." The footage changed. Now it showed human soldiers training. They ran through obstacle courses. They fired weapons at paper targets. They did exercises in neat rows. "They train for enemies they understand," said. "Other humans. They have never faced a real threat. They do not know what is coming." Far away on Earth, a different kind of watching was happening. Lieutenant sat in a small office in Seoul. She was 28 years old with sharp eyes and short black hair. Her job was simple: watch the sky. For 10 years she had studied strange signals, unusual movements in space, anything that did not belong. Most nights there was nothing. Space was quiet, but had learned patience. Her grandmother had taught her that patience was the greatest weapon. Her grandmother had survived the hard times when Korea was poor and broken. She had watched her country rebuild itself into something strong. "The weak become strong," her grandmother always said. "The watchers become the watched." Did not know about the station on the moon. No human did, but she knew something was out there. She could feel it the way a soldier feels danger before it arrives. On this night she noticed something strange. A small flicker on her screen. It was probably nothing. A satellite passing by, space dust. But she recorded it anyway. She recorded everything. Back on the commander was finishing his presentation. "Our warriors have trained in special chambers," he said. "They have experienced Earth gravity. They have practiced fighting in Earth atmosphere. They have studied human anatomy and know exactly where to strike. One blow to the correct location and a human dies." The screens showed soldiers in training. They were tall and strong, their bodies covered in natural armor. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing with precision. They looked unstoppable. "We will send 12 cruisers," announced. 40,000 warriors. This is more than enough. The humans will see our ships and understand that resistance is hopeless. They will surrender, and if they do not—" He paused, letting the silence speak. "Then we will show them what happens to species that resist the Empire." The council voted. The decision was unanimous. The invasion would begin. As left the great hall, Elder stopped him. "You are confident," the old one said. "It was not a question." "I have studied them for 60 years, replied. "I know them better than they know themselves." Was quiet for a moment. "You have watched them in peace." "Yes." "Have you watched them in war?" Considered the question. They had footage of human conflicts, of course, small wars in distant places, but these seemed disorganized, chaotic, humans fighting humans with old weapons and poor tactics. "Their wars are primitive," said. "They fight among themselves like animals fighting over food. They have no discipline, no unity." Nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but I am old enough to remember something, Commander. We once thought the same about we watched them for 50 years. We saw them as weak. We invaded with confidence." Knew this history. The war had been costly, unexpected. "Humans are not," he said firmly. "They are weaker, slower, less intelligent." "Perhaps," said again. "But I wonder, Commander, I wonder what they become when they are not at peace. I wonder what they hide." Dismissed the concern. He had data. He had evidence. He had 100 years of careful study. He could not have known how wrong he was. He could not have known that they had made the greatest mistake in their history. They had watched humans living. They had watched humans laughing and sleeping and eating. They had never watched humans fighting for survival. They had never seen what humans became when their homes were threatened. They would learn soon, and the lesson would last exactly 12 minutes. Part 2, First Contact. The morning was beautiful in Seoul. The sun was rising over the Han River, painting the water gold and orange. People were waking up, getting ready for work, eating breakfast with their families. Children were putting on school uniforms. Old men were walking in the parks. It was an ordinary Tuesday. Lieutenant was still at her desk. She had not slept. The strange flicker on her screen had become something more. Throughout the night, more signals appeared. They were coming closer. She picked up her phone and called her commanding officer. "Sir, I think you need to see this." 30 minutes later, General Park stood in the observation room. He was a large man with hair and a face marked by years of service. He had seen many things in his life. He had buried friends. He had made hard decisions, but he had never seen anything like this. "How many?" he asked quietly. 12 objects, replied. "They entered the atmosphere 7 minutes ago. They are descending over the peninsula." Stared at the screen. The objects were huge. Each one was larger than any aircraft ever built. They moved slowly, deliberately, like predators that knew their prey could not escape. "Have they made contact?" As if answering his question, every screen in the room suddenly changed. Every television in Seoul, in Korea, in the world showed the same image. A face with large, dark eyes. When it spoke, the words came in Korean, English, Chinese, and 40 other languages at the same time. "People of Earth, I am commander of the Empire. We have watched your world for 100 years. We know everything about you, your governments, your weapons, your weaknesses." The alien paused. In homes across the planet, people stood frozen, watching. "You have one chance. Surrender your world to the Empire, accept our rule. Your lives will be spared. Your children will serve us. This is mercy. This is your only option." Another pause. "Resistance is extinction." The broadcast ended. The screens returned to normal, but nothing was normal anymore. General took a deep breath. Around him, his officers were pale with shock. Some had tears in their eyes, they had families, they had children. "Sir," Captain said. Her voice was steady but her hands were shaking. "What do we do?" Looked at the young captain. She was brilliant, top of her class. She had never seen real combat, but she had trained for it every day of her adult life. "We do what we have always done," said. "We fight." He walked to the communication console and opened a channel that connected to military bases across the Pacific. "This is Seoul Actual. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. Initiate Protocol Crimson. I repeat, Protocol Crimson. All units, weapons free." Protocol Crimson was something most people did not know existed. It was a plan created decades ago, updated constantly, designed for a threat that seemed impossible. A threat from beyond Earth. Many had laughed at the idea. Many had said it was a waste of money. But the generals had insisted. They remembered history. They remembered how often the impossible became possible. Now the impossible was hovering over Seoul. Across the country, things began to move. Fighter jets started their engines at air bases. Submarines received orders and changed course. Soldiers woke up, grabbed their weapons, and ran to their positions. Hidden doors opened in mountainsides, revealing missile launchers that no satellite had ever seen. They had watched Earth for 100 years. They had seen the weapons humans showed to the world. They had not seen the weapons humans kept hidden. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the city below. Seoul was beautiful in the morning light. Soon it would belong to the Empire. "Launch the landing craft," he ordered. "Begin the occupation." 20 massive shuttles detached from the cruisers. Each one carried 2,000 warriors. They descended toward the city in perfect formation. "The humans have not fired," his tactical officer reported. "No military response detected." Nodded as expected. They understand the situation. They will not resist. But Lieutenant was watching from her underground bunker, and she was smiling. "They think we are doing nothing," she said to General. "Good," the general replied. "Let them think that." Captain was coordinating the defense from a mobile command vehicle driving through the streets of Seoul. Her computer showed the positions of every Korean unit, every weapon system, every soldier. Red dots marked the alien ships. Blue dots marked human forces. The blue dots were everywhere. 50,000 troops in position, she reported. Air defense online, missiles ready, naval support standing by. Watch the alien landing craft descend. They were 3,000 meters up, 2,000, 1,000. "Wait," he said. The landing craft touched down in the open areas the aliens had chosen. Parks, parking lots, empty fields. They had studied maps and selected locations where their forces could gather safely. They did not know that humans had studied the same maps. They did not know that every landing zone was already surrounded. "Now," General said. Captain gave the order. "All units fire." The world exploded. Missiles came from everywhere, from trucks hidden under bridges, from buildings that looked like offices, from submarines in the Yellow Sea. The aliens had expected primitive weapons. They received something very different. Sergeant was on a rooftop near. He was 35 years old, a career soldier who had trained for this moment without ever believing it would come. He lifted his rocket launcher, aimed at the nearest landing craft and fired. The rocket hit the craft's engine. The explosion was massive. Around him, other soldiers were doing the same thing. Years of training, millions of hours of practice, all of it for this moment. The aliens had watched humans playing games and watching television. They had not watched this. Commander stared at his display screen in disbelief. Landing craft were being destroyed before his eyes. His warriors, the finest soldiers in the Empire, were dying before they could even exit their ships. "Impossible," he whispered. "This is impossible." His tactical officer's voice was shaking. "Commander, their weapons. They are not what we predicted. They have improved greatly." They had watched human technology for 100 years. They had assumed humans advanced slowly, like most species. They were wrong. Humans advanced quickly when they needed to. Humans improved their weapons constantly, always preparing for threats they could not name. It was in their nature. It was in their history. And now that history was teaching the Empire a lesson it would never forget. The battle had begun. The clock had started. 12 minutes remained. Part 3, 12 minutes. The first minute was chaos. Commander watched 3 of his landing craft explode in fire and smoke. Alarms screamed across his bridge. Officers shouted reports that made no sense. This was not possible. This was not what 100 years of study had shown them. "Return fire," shouted. "All units return fire." But his ships were designed for space combat, not atmospheric warfare. Their weapons were slow to adjust. By the time they aimed at targets, those targets had moved. The humans were fast, too fast. In the second minute, the Korean Air Force arrived. 8 F-35 fighter jets screamed over the city at incredible speed. They were decoys, realized too late. While his ships tracked the jets, the real attack came from below. More missiles, more rockets, more death. Sergeant reloaded his launcher and fired again. His squad was moving, never staying in one place. They had trained for this. Urban combat, quick movements, strike and disappear. 3 more down, someone shouted through the radio. Did not celebrate, he kept moving. Keep moving and keep fighting. That was the rule, that was survival. In the third minute, the ground forces finally emerged from the surviving landing craft. They were tall and covered in natural armor. They carried weapons that fired energy beams. They moved in perfect formation, exactly as they had trained for 60 years. But something was wrong. Private Lee watched them through her rifle scope from a building 3 blocks away. She was 22 years old. She had grown up in a small town, joined the army to pay for university, and discovered she was very good at shooting. "They are moving slowly," she reported to her commander, "like they are tired." She was right. They had trained in gravity chambers, but the chambers were not perfect. Real Earth gravity was slightly different, slightly heavier. After 60 years of training and simulation, their bodies expected something else. It made them slow, it made them clumsy, it made them weak. Aimed carefully and fired. In the fourth minute, Captain coordinated the ground defense. "Push them toward the river," she ordered through her radio. "Do not let them spread out, keep them together." The soldiers obeyed. They had trained for this. Not for aliens specifically, but for invasion, for urban defense, for protecting their homes. The enemy was different, but the tactics were the same. The warriors found themselves surrounded. They had expected frightened civilians. They found professional soldiers who knew every street, every building, every corner. In the fifth minute, Commander made a decision. Landing craft returned to the cruisers. All ground forces retreat. But it was too late. The Korean forces had closed the trap. The on the ground had nowhere to go. General Park watched the battle from his underground command center. His face showed no emotion. Inside, his heart was pounding. This was real. This was happening. And somehow, impossibly, they were winning. "Casualty report," he said. 200 Korean forces wounded, 34 dead. Enemy losses estimated at 8,000 and climbing. Closed his eyes for a moment. 34 of his people. 34 families that would receive terrible news. But the aliens had lost hundreds for every human fallen. In the sixth minute, the cruisers began to rise. They were trying to escape. They had come to conquer and found something unexpected. Now they wanted to leave, to regroup, to understand what had gone wrong. But leaving was not so easy. High above the atmosphere, satellites that they had dismissed as communication devices revealed their true purpose. They were weapons platforms, hidden in plain sight for decades, waiting. The first energy beam struck a cruiser from above. The ship shook violently. Its shields flickered. "What was that?" screamed. "Space-based weapons," his officer replied, his voice filled with terror. "The humans have space-based weapons." In the 7th minute, the cruisers fought back. Their weapons were powerful. They destroyed one satellite, then another. But there were many satellites, and there were more missiles coming from the ground, and there were ships approaching from the sea. The humans had prepared for everything. Sergeant's squad captured a group of soldiers in the 8th minute. The aliens had dropped their weapons. They were kneeling, hands raised. Their faces showed an emotion had never expected to see. "Fear." "They are afraid of us," one of his soldiers said in amazement. "Good," replied, "they should be." In the 9th minute, only 6 cruisers remained in the sky. The others were destroyed or disabled, falling toward the ocean in flames. Commander stared at the destruction. This was not possible. This could not be happening. "All ships maximum power to engines," he ordered. "We must reach orbit." His crew obeyed. The remaining cruisers accelerated, pushing through the atmosphere toward the safety of space. In the 10th minute, Private Lee stopped shooting. There were no more targets. The ground forces were destroyed or captured. Thousands of alien soldiers had surrendered. They sat in groups, guarded by humans they had planned to enslave. Lowered her rifle and looked at the sky. The alien ships were small now, running away like scared animals. "We did it," someone said beside her. "Not yet," replied. "Not until they are gone." In the 11th minute, the cruisers broke through the atmosphere. They had escaped. 4 ships remained. 4 ships out of 12, less than 5,000 warriors out of 40,000. Commander collapsed into his chair. His skin was pale, his hands were shaking. "How?" he whispered. "How did this happen?" His tactical officer had no answer. In the 12th minute, the last ship cleared Earth's gravity well. Behind them, the blue planet continued to turn. The sun still shone on Sol. The Han River still flowed to the sea. Life continued. But everything had changed. General stood in his command center and looked at the final reports. The invasion was over. The aliens were retreating. Humanity had won. 12 minutes. 100 years of preparation by the most advanced empire in the galaxy. And humans had destroyed them in 12 minutes. Captain appeared beside him. "Sir, should we pursue?" Shook his head. "No, let them go. Let them tell their empire what happened here today." He looked up at the sky, toward stars he could not see. "Let them warn the others." They had come to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, humanity had taught them something else. Some species should not be invaded. Some planets should not be touched. And some creatures, soft and sleepy and peaceful as they might seem, become something entirely different when their homes are threatened. The galaxy was about to learn this truth. 12 minutes at a time. Part 4: The Reckoning. The smoke was still rising from the battlefield when General Park walked through the wreckage. The morning sun was high now. Hours had passed since the last ship fled into space. Around, soldiers were collecting alien weapons, treating wounded enemies, and counting the cost of victory. The cost was heavy, but it could have been much worse. Captain walked beside the general, her tablet showing casualty reports. "Final numbers, sir. 112 Korean soldiers dead, 417 wounded. Civilian casualties are still being counted, but early estimates say less than 2,000. Nodded slowly. Each number was a person, a family destroyed, a future ended. But for an alien invasion that had planned to enslave the entire planet, these numbers were a miracle. And the enemy? Over 30,000 dead, 8,000 captured. Only 4 ships escaped, carrying approximately 4,000 survivors. The general stopped walking. He looked at the remains of a landing craft. It was burned and broken, its strange metal twisted by human weapons. Inside, he could see the bodies of alien soldiers who had died before reaching the ground. "They trained for 100 years," he said quietly. 100 years of preparation, and we stopped them in 12 minutes. Was quiet for a moment. "Sir, may I ask something?" "Go ahead." "How did you know? How did you know we could win?" Turned to face his young captain. She had performed brilliantly today. She had saved countless lives with her quick decisions, but she was still young enough to wonder about such things. "I did not know," he admitted. "Nobody knew. We prepared for the worst and hoped for the best. That is all any soldier can do." He continued walking, stepping over alien equipment and broken concrete. "But I believed in something," he added. "I believe that any enemy who watches us for 100 years and sees only weakness has made a terrible mistake. We are not weak, Captain. We have never been weak. We simply prefer peace." Across the city, Medic was working in a field hospital that had been set up in a school gymnasium. Most of her patients were human soldiers with minor injuries, but in one corner, separated from the others, lay wounded prisoners. They were guarded by armed soldiers, but did not think the guards were necessary. These aliens were too injured to fight, and more than that, they seemed too shocked to do anything at all. She approached the nearest one. It was lying on a mattress, blood seeping through bandages on its chest. When it saw her coming, it tried to move away. "Do not be afraid," said gently. She did not know if the alien understood Korean, but she hoped her tone would communicate her meaning. The alien's translator device crackled. Why do you come?" "I am a healer. You are hurt. I will help you." The stared at her with large, dark eyes. "I came to conquer you, to enslave your kind. Why would you help me?" Knelt beside the alien and began checking its bandages. The wound was serious but not fatal. With proper care, this creature would survive. "Because helping is what healers do," she said simply. "Your intentions do not change my duty." The alien was silent for a long time. Then it spoke again, its voice barely a whisper. "We were told you were primitive. We were told you were weak. We were told you would surrender. You were told wrong." "Yes," the alien closed its eyes. "We watched you for 100 years. We thought we understood you. We understood nothing." In another part of the city, Sergeant sat on a pile of rubble, drinking water from a bottle. His hands were still shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, and he was starting to feel the exhaustion. He had not slept in over 24 hours. He had fired his weapon more times than he could count. He had seen things that would stay with him forever. But they had won. Private Lee sat down beside him. Her rifle was slung over her shoulder, and there was dried blood on her uniform. "How are you feeling?" she asked. Laughed, though there was no humor in it. "I do not know, tired, relieved, angry." "Angry. They came to our home, they threatened our families, they thought we would just give up." He shook his head. "They did not know us at all." Nodded, she understood. Every Korean soldier understood. Their country had been invaded before. Their people had suffered before, but they had survived. They had rebuilt. They had grown strong. And now they had proven themselves against an enemy from the stars. "What happens next?" she asked. Looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, 4 alien ships were running home with their survivors. Somewhere out there, an empire was learning that Earth was not an easy target. "I do not know," he admitted. "But whatever comes, we will face it together. That is what we do." Lieutenant was still in her observation room, but now she was not watching for threats. She was watching the celebrations. Around the world, people were gathering in the streets. They were crying and hugging and cheering. They had woken up expecting an ordinary day and had faced the end of their civilization. Now they were celebrating survival. But knew this was not the end. The Empire was still out there. Other aliens might be watching. The galaxy had noticed Earth. She turned to look at General, who had returned to the command center. "Sir, what do we tell the world?" The general considered the question carefully. The entire planet had seen the alien broadcast. Everyone knew that life existed beyond Earth. Everyone knew that this life had tried to destroy them. "We tell them the truth," said. "We were attacked. We defended ourselves. We won. And if they come back," smiled grimly, "then we will teach them the same lesson again and again until they learn." He looked at the screens showing scenes from around the world. People holding signs, children waving flags, soldiers being embraced by grateful citizens. "We are not conquerors," he said quietly. "We do not wish to rule the galaxy. We simply want to live in peace, raise our children, and explore the universe with curious minds. But if anyone tries to take that from us—" He paused, remembering the aliens who had underestimated humanity. "They will discover what 100 years of watching could never show them. They will discover what we become when we have something to protect." Captain stood beside her commander, looking at the same screens. "Do you think they will come back, sir?" "Perhaps, perhaps not. But the galaxy is watching now. Every species out there knows what happened today. They know that a powerful empire sent 40,000 warriors to conquer Earth, and those warriors lasted 12 minutes. He turned to face his officers, the people who had helped save their world. "Let that be our message. We do not seek war, we prefer peace, but we are not afraid, we have never been afraid, and we will never surrender our home." The sun was setting over Seoul, the fires were dying, the cleanup was beginning. Humanity had survived its first contact with alien life. And the galaxy would never look at the blue planet the same way again. Part 5: The Message. 1 week had passed since the invasion. The world had changed. Governments were meeting. Scientists were studying captured alien technology. Soldiers were training harder than ever before. But most importantly, humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Everyone knew it now. Everyone had to accept it. In a small television studio in Seoul, preparations were being made for the most important broadcast in human history. General Park stood in the control room, watching technicians adjust equipment. Captain was beside him, reviewing the final details. "We have confirmed that the communication frequencies are operational," reported. "Our scientists were able to decode their encryption within 3 days. When we broadcast, they will receive our message clearly." Nodded, and the rest of the galaxy? Unknown. But they were not the only ones watching Earth. If there are other civilizations out there, they will likely detect this broadcast as well. The general looked at the simple chair in the center of the studio. In a few minutes, someone would sit there and speak to the stars. Someone would represent all of humanity. The door opened and an elderly woman entered. She was small and thin, her white hair pulled back from her wrinkled face. She walked slowly, supported by a young nurse, but her eyes were sharp and bright. She was 91 years old. General bowed respectfully. "Thank you for coming, grandmother." Smiled. "When my country calls, I answer. I have been doing that for 70 years. She was not a politician. She was not a scientist. She was not a soldier. She was something more important. She was a survivor. Had been born during the Japanese occupation. She had lived through the Korean War. She had seen her country burn and rebuild. She had raised children and she had watched her nation transform from poverty to prosperity. She had seen the worst of humanity and the best of it. The government had searched for the right person to deliver this message. They had considered presidents and generals and scholars, but in the end, they had chosen, because she represented something that statistics and speeches could not capture. She represented human strength, human endurance, human hope. The technicians finished their adjustments. The cameras were ready. The signal was prepared. "Whenever you are ready," grandmother said. Lowered herself into the chair, the nurse stepped back, the lights brightened. and 91 years old and barely 5 feet tall, looked directly into the camera and spoke to the galaxy. My name is, I am speaking to you from a planet called Earth. Perhaps you have heard of us, perhaps you have not, but you will hear of us now. Far away in the darkness of space, Commander received the broadcast on his damaged flagship. He was still retreating toward space, still trying to understand what had happened. When he saw the human face on his screen, he ordered silence on the bridge. Everyone watched. 1 week ago, continued, your empire sent warriors to conquer our world. They came with weapons and threats. They expected us to surrender. They expected us to kneel. Her voice was calm, steady, like a grandmother telling a story to her. We did not kneel. The screen behind her showed footage of the battle, alien ships exploding, soldiers fighting, fire and smoke and chaos. You watched us for 100 years. You saw us at our weakest moments. You saw us when we were tired, when we were distracted, when we were kind to each other. You thought our kindness was weakness. You thought our peace meant we could not fight. Shook her head slowly. You were wrong. On the bridge, officers shifted uncomfortably. They had spent their lives believing in their superiority. Now an elderly human woman was speaking to them like they were foolish children. We have been fighting since the beginning of our history, said. We fight disease. We fight natural disasters. We fight ourselves. We have 10,000 years of practice at war. We have become very, very good at it. She paused, letting her words settle. But here is what you need to understand. We do not want to fight. We build hospitals. We build schools. We write music and poetry. We raise our children with love. We dream of peace. We reach for the stars with open hands, hopping to find friends. Her eyes seemed to look directly at every being watching throughout the galaxy. You forced those hands to close into fists. Commander felt something he had never felt before. Not fear exactly, something deeper, something like shame. This is the only warning we will give, continued. Return to our world in peace and we will welcome you as friends. We will share our art, our knowledge, our dreams. We will learn from you and you will learn from us. We are curious people. We want to know what is out there among the stars. Her expression hardened slightly, not with anger but with absolute certainty. But if you return in war, if you come to threaten our children and destroy our homes, then you will learn what 100 years of watching could never show you. You will learn what we become when we must fight. She smiled then, a grandmother's smile, warm and patient. And somehow, that smile was more terrifying than any threat. I have lived for 91 years. I have seen my people suffer. I have seen my people survive. I have seen us rise from nothing to build a world of wonders. We are small, yes. We are fragile. We sleep too much and eat too much, and sometimes we are foolish. Her smile widened. But we are also strong, stronger than you can imagine, because our strength does not come from our bodies or our weapons. It comes from what we carry inside, our love for each other, our hope for the future, our absolute refusal to surrender what we hold dear. She leaned forward slightly. The Empire sent 40,000 warriors to conquer Earth. They lasted 12 minutes. Think about that. Consider what it means. And then decide, do you want to be our friends? Or do you want to learn as the learned what humanity is truly capable of? She sat back. The choice is yours. We will be here, living our lives, loving our families, reaching for the stars. If you come in peace, you will find the most welcoming people in the universe. If you come in war. She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. My name is, I have spoken for humanity. May the universe have the wisdom to listen. The broadcast ended. Silence filled the bridge. Commander stared at the empty screen for a long time. Commander, his officer asked finally, what are your orders? Closed his eyes, he thought about the warriors he had lost, the ships he had lost, the certainty he had lost. Set course for home, he said quietly. And when we arrive, I will recommend to the council that Earth be reclassified. Reclassified as what, Commander? Opened his eyes and looked at the stars. As a species never to be attacked, as a world never to be touched, as a people who have mastered the art of peace without forgetting how to wage war. The ship turned toward home. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 different worlds, beings watched the broadcast from Earth. Some were afraid, some were curious, some were impressed. And some, the ones, began preparing not for war, but for diplomacy. Humanity had announced itself to the universe. The universe would never be the same. On Earth, returned to her small apartment in Seoul, her granddaughter helped her into her favorite chair. Outside the window, the city was glowing with lights. "Do you think they will come back, grandmother?" the young woman asked. Looked at the stars appearing in the evening sky. "Perhaps, perhaps not, but if they do, they will find us ready. They will find us together. They will find us human." She smiled and closed her eyes. "And that will be enough."